Hear me clearly. America is not a racist country.
We need to address, well, first of all, no, I don't think America is a racist country.
So if nearly half of all blacks are not okay with white people, according to this poll, not according to me, according to this poll, that's a hate group.
What?
That's a hate group. And I don't want to have anything to do with them. And I would say, based on the current way things are going, the best advice I would give to white people is to get the hell away from black people. Just get the away. Wherever you have to go, just get away.
Stop it. Get some help.
Because there's no fixing this. This can't be fixed. Right? This can't be fixed. You just have to escape. So that's what I did. I went to a neighborhood where, I have a very low black population. Because unfortunately, there's a high correlation between the density. This is according to Don Lemon, by the way. So here I'm just quoting Don Lemon when he notes that when he lived in a mostly black neighborhood, there were a bunch of problems that he didn't see in white neighborhoods. So even Don Lemon sees a big difference in your own quality of living based on where you live and who's there. So I think it makes no sense whatsoever as a white citizen of America to try to help black citizens anymore. It doesn't make sense. It's no longer a rational impulse. And so I'm gonna back off from being helpful to black America because it doesn't seem like it pays off. Like I've been doing it all my life, and the only outcome is I get called a racist. That's the only outcome.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
It's okay.
It's not okay, though. It's not,
It makes no sense to help black Americans if you're white. It's over. Don't even think it's worth trying. Totally not trying. And there we go. You didn't expect that today, did you? But those who don't want to focus on education, you just need to get away from them. Just get as much distance as you can. That's my recommendation. And I'm also really sick of seeing video after video of black Americans beating up non-black citizens. I realize it's anecdotal, and it doesn't give me a full picture of what's happening. But every damn day I look on social media and there's some black person beating some white person. I'm kind of over it. I'm over it. Right? So I quit.
And truth be told, I'm not a very big fan of the black people.
Let me tell you something. At a point in time, I used to actually like Dilbert. I used to watch it. I think when they had it on Comedy Central, I used to watch it on UPN. I used to, happen to get the newspaper, go to the cartoon section. I would sit up there and look at and read Dilbert, right? It's somewhat a simple, cartoon to draw on different things of that nature. But when you're younger, you try to sit up and draw it yourself. Magically, you just can't seem to get things right. So it was like it was something that I technically liked and enjoyed, and a variety of things like that. But it's amazing how much when time actually moves, you start to see the true colors of individuals. You start to see and understand who people actually are and who they've always been. He literally tried to quote quite a few things, right? Number one, where you went wrong is that you're white and you wanted to quote somebody that was black on what it is that they stated and what is their experience being around other black people. We have our own thing when it deals with each other. So you trying to use that as an example is not going to go over well because you don't have the same walking, living, life, talking, eating. You don't have all of those experiences that Don Lemon has had as a black man in America amongst black people in America. You don't have that same experience as a white man. You just don't. You never can. Right? The dynamic with you and black people would happen to come down with history. It will come down with race. It will come down with the system. It'll come down with laws. It'll come down with a lot of things that are woven, right? Nothing that is built off of, hey, I know you, you know me. We look the same. We have the same culture. You have the same history. I have the same history. All of those type of things. It's not the same. That was the wrong example for you to do. And then your second wrong example was the fact that you wanted to sit up there and quote some type of random poll. Don't know where this poll came from, but you wanted to quote that poll and state that, yeah, because of what this poll is stating, black people in general are just a hate group. What? I've never heard of such nonsense ever in my life, where now we have polls out here that dictate if black people are a racist group or not. Now, if you would have said, a group that is affiliated with black people or something like that, whatever, whatever. I would more than likely still disagree, depending on the group that you were talking about. Um, but you're talking about black people as a whole are a hate group. Woo, that is a deep generalization right there. I've never in my life, out of all of the things I have literally heard white people say in America, this is the first time ever in my existence in the United States of America that I've ever heard somebody white state that black people are a hate group. I've even heard stuff from white people who are legitimately and actually racist. And they didn't even make such a broad generalization to say that, yo, those blacks over there, they're a hate group. All of them. It's not a single one. That's not all of them. Like, wow, that's crazy. Now, some people might want to turn this around and be like, well, Seiji, what about all the times that black people like to say that, white people are racist and they use that as a general and a blanket statement? What about that? Isn't it technically, isn't it the same thing? Actually, it's not. I know you would want it to be, but actually, it's not. The difference is black people being considered a racist group, we have to now look at the definition of racist. Let's just look that up as I'm directly, you know, doing this video, right? I'm going to go to the Webster's dictionary, right? So it states that of relating to or characterized by racism, such as a having reflecting or fostering the belief that race, right, is a fundamental determination of human traits and capacities, and that racial differences produce an inherent superiority of a particular race. B, of relating to or characterized by the systemic oppression of a racial group to the social, economic, and political advantages of another, right? And the funniest thing is, those definitions don't encompass black people due to the fact that even though black people are a part of the United States of America, black people don't have the power to oppress and make white people submit to the wills and the laws of black people. We don't have that power here. I would really need you to list the time that we really have any type of laws on the books for hundreds or whatever amount of years where we've been able to sit up there and put you guys in jails, in prison, coming up with vagrancy laws, coming up with laws because you can't be armed due to the fact of the color of your skin. All of these different types of laws. Color coding and redlining, all of these things based solely due to one's skin color. I would love for people to show me stuff in the 1900s, the 1800s, so on and so on and so on, where we've done that. And it's been so effective that it has literally held generations of white people back. I will be waiting directly on that information because I'm going to be waiting a long time.
Another one.
Now let's go over with the reverse black code, and this is taken from the Britannica. Black code in U.S. history. Any of numerous laws enacted in the United States of the former Confederacy after the American Civil War and intended to assure the continuance of white supremacy. Enacted in 1865 and 1866, the laws were designed to replace the social controls of slavery that have been removed by the Emancipation Proclamation and the 13th Amendment to the Constitution. The black codes had their roots in the slave codes that had formerly been in effect. The premise behind chattel slavery in America was that slaves were property and, as such, they had few or no legal rights. The slave codes, in their many loosely defined forms, were seen as effective tools against slave unrest, particularly as hedged against uprising and runaways. Enforcement of slave codes also varied, but corporal punishment was widely harshly employed. The Black Codes enacted immediately after the American Civil War, though varying from state to state, were all intended to secure a steady supply of cheap labor and all continued to assume the inferiority of the free slaves. There were vagrancy laws that declared a black person to be a vagrant if unemployed and without permanent residence. A person so defined could be arrested, fined, and bond out for a term of labor if unable to pay the fine. Portions of vagrancy laws enacted by the state's legislature of Mississippi in 1965.
Another one.
Sundown towns, also called sunset towns in the United States history, a town that excludes non-white people, most frequently African Americans, from remaining in town after sunset. More generally, sundown town is used to describe a place where the resident population was, through deliberate action, made to be overwhelmingly composed of white people. The method for enforcing such racial segregation ranged from episodes of collective violence, such as public lynchings, to ongoing housing discrimination enacted via a exclusionary covenants that prevented black people from owning property. Most sundown towns arose between about 1890, after the Reconstruction era ended, and 1968, when the Fair Housing Act prohibited racial discrimination in the sale, rental, financing, or advertising of housing. Sundown towns coincided with a period in which black Americans lost rights that had been gained immediately following the American Civil War, 1861 to 1865. The term sundown town originated in numerous signs that were posted at the limits of such towns warning African Americans, don't let the sun go down on you in such and such town.
Another one.
Grandfather Clause. Grandfather Clause, statutory or constitutional device enacted by 7 southern states between 1895 and 1910 to deny suffrage to African Americans. It provided that those who had enjoyed the right to vote prior to 1866 or 1867 and their lineal descendants will be exempt from recently enacted educational, property, or tax requirements from voting. Because the former slaves have not been granted the franchise until the adoption of the 15th Amendment in 1870, those clauses work effectively to exclude black people from the vote, but assured the franchise to many impoverished and illiterate whites. Although the United States Supreme Court declared in 1915 that the Grandfather Clause was unconstitutional because it violated equal voting rights guaranteed by the 15th Amendment, it was not until President Lyndon B. Johnson introduced the Voting Rights Act of 1965 that Congress was able to put an end to the discriminatory practice. The act abolished voter prerequisites and also allowed for federal supervision of voter registration. With the passage of the Voting Rights Act, the 15th Amendment was finally enforced. So, just within that little short amount of information, we can tell a little bit about the history of the United States and who, in a sense, it was built for, who it was built in order to protect, in order to house, in order to feed, in order to clothe, in order to help progress, because there were a lot of laws. Oddly enough, because remember, America isn't racist, but there seemingly, there was a lot of laws that were quite out of place that enabled one set group of people to excel over another set group of people. And even after laws were basically abolished or what have you, there were other things that came in to replace those laws that had been abolished or taken care of, or, you know, however you want to put it. But as I stated before, it's funny how a person such as this states that, oh, my whole life, all I did was basically help black people my whole life. You're acting like God literally put you here. Your only purpose that you were born here for was to, in a sense, benefit black people. I'm a little bit confused on that. I'm highly confused. You're literally on social media crying like you're living in a nice house, you're living in a nice community, you have nice money directly in your bank account, and you're crying with all of the riches that you got. You're up here crying as an old man on social media talking about, huh, I'm just throwing my hands up with black people. Huh, I'm just tired of it. As if you had to deal with black people your whole life. You're not even black, so I'm trying to figure out what you're tired of. If a black person said that they tired of dealing with black people, that's different because it's a whole different experience because you're dealing with your family, your friends, community, people on the outside, people on the inside, people that you might just see like on the freeway, whatever. Like I said, that's a lot of different experiences that you're going to sit up and have. But for you to be as white as snow, complaining and throwing your hands up saying that you're done helping black people, you're just done because the only thing that is brought to you is being called racist. Nah, you just literally called yourself racist. You brought it out yourself. Ain't nobody do it. You the one that did it with this whole little spiel that you decided to give on social media, trying to go in and talk about black people and use a black man as an example in his experiences in order to convey whatever your feelings are. And then you want to use some type of poll, don't know who that poll is from, who made it, who paid for it, where it was taken, and then wanted to use that to justify saying that black people as a group are racist. And again, I just want to state that I only listed a few things. There are many more, tons of examples directly out there how there have been things enacted in the United States of America in order to hinder black people from excelling, from where it is that they directly had to deal with due to the fact of the United States government and white people in general that did not automatically deem black people as human beings, right? One group was able to excel because of these laws and another group was not. And these laws were persistent and continuous and basically changed and or rewritten to ask what they originally were so that they can carry on even further, right? But if you want to see how to end your career so that you won't be able to make the same amount of money that you normally make, this is what that looks like. This is exactly what that looks like. Nobody has to, in a sense, cancel people when you, in a sense, cancel yourself by saying and doing things like this.
White people.